The clock on the gym wall showed 9:45 p.m. when Ronda Rousey finished her training session. She wiped the sweat from her face with a white towel and looked around the empty gym. The place was quiet now. Earlier it had been full of people training and talking. Now it was just her and the night janitor cleaning the floors. Ronda walked to her locker and grabbed her car keys. She was tired but felt good. The training had gone well. She had been working hard to get back in shape after taking time off from fighting. Many people thought she was done with sports forever. They thought she would never fight again after her last loss. But Ronda knew better. She was not ready to give up yet. She walked out of the gym and into the cool night air. Venice Beach was different at night. During the day, it was full of tourists and street performers. At night, it was much quieter. The streets were mostly empty except for a few cars driving by. Ronda got into her black SUV and started the engine. She lived about 20 minutes away from the gym. The drive home was usually peaceful. She liked this time to think about her training and plan for the next day. Tonight felt different, though. She could not explain why, but something felt off. As she drove down the main street, she noticed how empty everything looked. Most of the shops were closed. The street lights cast long shadows on the sidewalks. She stopped at a red light and checked her phone. Her husband had sent her a text asking when she would be home. She typed back quickly, telling him she was on her way. The light turned green and she continued driving. She turned onto a smaller street that would take her home faster. This street was even quieter than the main road. There were no other cars around. The houses on both sides had their lights off. Most people were already asleep. Ronda was thinking about her training session when she saw headlights in her rearview mirror. A car was coming up behind her pretty fast. She moved over a little to give them room to pass. But the car did not pass. Instead, it stayed right behind her. She looked in the mirror again and saw it was a police car. The black and white patrol car was following very close to her bumper. Too close. She wondered if she had done something wrong. Maybe she was driving too fast without realizing it. But she checked her speedometer and saw she was only going 25 miles per hour. The speed limit on this street was 35. The patrol car stayed behind her for several blocks. The officers inside did not turn on their lights or sirens. They just followed her. Ronda started to feel uncomfortable. She had never had problems with police before. She always respected law enforcement and followed the rules. But something about this situation did not feel right. She slowed down even more, hoping they would pass her. Instead, the patrol car slowed down too. It stayed right behind her bumper. She could see two officers in the front seat. They seemed to be talking to each other and looking at her car. Ronda came to another red light and stopped. The patrol car stopped right behind her. She could feel her heart beating faster. Her fighter instincts were telling her that something was wrong. In the ring, she had learned to trust these feelings. They usually meant trouble was coming. She looked in her side mirror and saw one of the officers pointing at her car. The other officer was nodding and saying something back. They both seemed excited about something. Ronda wished she could hear what they were saying. The light was taking a long time to change. Ronda sat there waiting and thinking. Maybe they were just checking her license plate. Maybe they thought her car looked like one they were looking for. She tried to stay calm and think of innocent reasons why they might be following her. But deep down, she knew this was not normal. Police officers did not usually follow people this closely without a reason. And if they wanted to pull her over, they would have turned on their lights by now. Instead, they were just following her and watching her. Ronda thought about calling her husband. But she did not want to worry him if this turned out to be nothing. She also thought about calling 911. But what would she say? That police officers were following her? That did not sound like an emergency. The officers in the car behind her were still talking and pointing. One of them picked up his radio and said something into it. Ronda could not hear the words, but she saw his mouth moving. He seemed to be giving someone information about her or her car. Finally, the light turned green. Ronda pressed the gas pedal gently and started moving forward. The patrol car followed right behind her. They were so close that she could see the officers clearly in her mirror. The driver was a Hispanic man with a mustache. The passenger was a white man with short blonde hair. Both looked to be in their 30s. Ronda drove slowly and carefully. She made sure to use her turn signals and stay in her lane. She did not want to give them any reason to pull her over. But she also started to realize that they might not need a real reason. As she drove, She noticed the officers were getting more animated in their conversation. They kept looking at her car and at each other. The passenger officer was writing something down in a notebook. The driver was nodding and smiling in a way that made Rhonda uncomfortable. She was only a few blocks from her house now. She thought about driving straight home, but then she worried about leading these officers to her house. She did not want them to know where she lived if they were up to something bad. Instead, she decided to drive to the 24-hour gas station near her neighborhood. There would be lights and maybe other people around. If something bad was going to happen, it would be better to have witnesses. Rhonda turned into the gas station parking lot. The patrol car followed her in. She parked near the front of the store where the security cameras could see everything clearly. The patrol car parked right behind her, blocking her in. Now she knew for sure that something was wrong. Normal police officers would not trap someone in a parking lot like this. They would either pull her over officially or drive away. These officers had different plans. Rhonda took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. She had been in many tough situations before. In the ring, she had faced opponents who wanted to hurt her. She had learned to stay focused and think clearly even when she was scared. She checked that her phone was fully charged and easy to reach. She also made sure her car doors were locked. Whatever these officers wanted, she was going to be ready for it. Rhonda sat in her car at the gas station, watching the two officers in her rearview mirror. They were still talking to each other, but now they seemed to be making a plan. The driver kept looking at his watch and the passenger was checking something on his phone. The gas station was not very busy. There was one other car at the gas pumps and an old man was filling up his tank. Inside the store, she could see a young clerk behind the counter reading a magazine. The bright lights from the gas station made her feel a little safer, but she still knew something bad was about to happen. After about 5 minutes of waiting, the driver of the patrol car opened his door and stepped out. He was tall and had a serious look on his face. His name tag said Martinez. He walked slowly toward Rhonda's car, keeping his hand near his belt where his weapons were. Rhonda rolled down her window halfway when Officer Martinez reached her car. She wanted to be polite but also careful. "Good evening, ma'am," Martinez said. His voice was not friendly. "Do you know why we stopped you?" "You didn't stop me," Rhonda replied calmly. "You followed me here. I pulled in on my own." Martinez did not like her answer. His face got red and he stepped closer to her window. "Don't get smart with me. We've been watching you drive erratically for the past few blocks." Rhonda knew this was not true. She had been driving very carefully since she noticed them following her. "I was driving normally," she said. "I stayed in my lane and followed the speed limit." "That's not what I saw," Martinez said. He pulled out a small notebook and pretended to read from it. "You were weaving between lanes and driving too fast for conditions." The other officer, whose name tag said Johnson, got out of the patrol car and walked over. He was shorter than Martinez but looked just as unfriendly. Johnson had blonde hair and small, mean-looking eyes. "Is there a problem here?" Johnson asked, even though he already knew what was happening. "This lady thinks she can drive however she wants," Martinez said. "She's giving me attitude about her bad driving." Rhonda felt her anger rising, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had learned in her fighting career that losing control of your emotions was the fastest way to lose a fight. "Officers, I haven't done anything wrong. I was just driving home from the gym." Johnson laughed in a nasty way. "The gym? What gym stays open this late?" "Venice Beach Fitness on Main Street," Rhonda answered. "You can call them if you want to check." "We'll be the ones asking questions here," Martinez said. His voice was getting louder. "Step out of the vehicle." "Why?" Rhonda asked. "What am I being charged with?" "You're not being charged with anything yet," Johnson said with a smile that made Rhonda's skin crawl. "We just want to make sure you're okay to drive." Rhonda knew her rights. Police officers could not make her get out of her car without a good reason. "Am I under arrest?" she asked. "Not yet," Martinez said, "but you will be if you don't cooperate." The old man who had been getting gas finished filling his tank and drove away. Now it was just Rhonda, the two officers, and the clerk inside the store. She felt more alone and vulnerable. "I want to call my lawyer," Rhonda said. Johnson laughed again. "Your lawyer? Lady, this is just a traffic stop. Why do you need a lawyer for a simple traffic stop?" "Because you're treating me like a criminal when I haven't done anything wrong," Rhonda replied. Martinez walked back to the patrol car and opened the driver's door. For a moment, Rhonda thought he might be giving up and leaving. Instead, he reached inside and did something she could not see clearly. Then he got back in the car and closed the door. What's he doing? Rhonda wondered to herself. Johnson stayed by her window, watching her closely. You know, you look familiar, he said. Have we met before? I don't think so, Rhonda said. No, I definitely recognize you from somewhere, Johnson continued. Are you on TV or something? Rhonda did not want to tell them who she was. She had a feeling that would make things worse, not better. I don't know what you're talking about. Johnson pulled out his phone and started looking at something on the screen. After a few seconds, his eyes got wide and he smiled that nasty smile again. Martinez, he called to his partner. You need to see this. Martinez got out of the car again and walked over. Johnson showed him the phone screen and both officers started grinning like they had just won the lottery. Well, 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 Martinez said. Looks like we got ourselves a celebrity. Rhonda's heart sank. She had hoped they would not figure out who she was. Ronda Rousey, Johnson said, reading from his phone. Former UFC champion. Worth millions of dollars. So what? Rhonda said. That doesn't change anything. I still haven't done anything wrong. Maybe not yet, Martinez said. But the night is still young. Both officers walked back to their patrol car and had a quiet conversation. Rhonda could not hear what they were saying, but she could see them pointing at her and nodding to each other. They seemed very excited about something. While they talked, Rhonda thought about her options. She could try to drive away, but that would definitely give them a reason to arrest her. She could call 911, but these were police officers. Who would she report them to? She decided to try recording the conversation with her phone. If something bad happened, at least there would be evidence. She carefully took her phone out of her purse and started the video camera. She held it low so the officers could not see it. After a few more minutes, both officers came back to her car. This time, Martinez went to the driver's side and Johnson went to the passenger side. They were surrounding her. Okay, Miss Rousey, Martinez said. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to step out of the car so we can search it. Search it for what? Rhonda asked. You need a warrant or probable cause to search my car. We have probable cause, Johnson said from the other side. We smell marijuana coming from your vehicle. This was obviously a lie. Rhonda had never used drugs in her life. She was a professional athlete who got tested regularly. That's not possible, she said. Are you calling us liars? Martinez asked, his voice getting angry. I'm saying there's no marijuana in my car because I don't use drugs, Rhonda replied. Well, we'll see about that, Johnson said. Get out of the car, now! Rhonda looked around the gas station. The clerk inside was still reading his magazine and had not noticed what was happening outside. There were no other customers around. The security cameras were there, but she did not know if they were actually recording or if anyone was watching them. She realized these officers were planning to plant drugs in her car or make up some other story to arrest her. Once they got her out of the vehicle, they would have complete control over the situation. I'm not getting out, Rhonda said firmly. I know my rights. Martinez's face turned red with anger. You're making this a lot harder than it needs to be. I'm not making anything hard, Rhonda said. I'm just exercising my constitutional rights. Johnson walked around to the front of her car and stood where she could see him clearly. He put his hand on his gun and gave her a threatening look. Last chance, Martinez said. Get out of the car or we'll drag you out. Rhonda kept recording with her phone, making sure to capture both officers and their threats. She had a feeling she was going to need this evidence very soon. Rhonda could feel the tension in the air getting thicker. Officer Martinez was getting more angry by the minute, and Officer Johnson was standing in front of her car with his hand still on his gun. She knew she had to be very careful with her next moves. This is your final warning, Martinez said through her window. Get out of the car right now, or we will arrest you for resisting arrest. How can I be resisting arrest if you haven't arrested me for anything? Rhonda asked. She was trying to use logic, but she could see these officers were not interested in being reasonable. Johnson walked back over from the front of the car. She's being difficult, Martinez. I think we need to take action. What action? Rhonda asked. I'm sitting in my car, not bothering anyone. I haven't broken any laws. You've been driving recklessly, Martinez said, and now you're refusing to cooperate with a police investigation. What investigation? Rhonda shot back. You followed me to a gas station and now you're trying to search my car for no reason. Johnson pulled out his radio and spoke into it. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. We need backup at the Shell station on Ocean View Boulevard. We have an uncooperative suspect. Suspect of what? Rhonda asked loudly so the radio would pick up her voice. What crime am I suspected of? Johnson ignored her question and kept talking to dispatch. Suspect is refusing to exit vehicle and may be under the influence of narcotics. Rhonda could not believe what she was hearing. These officers were making up stories and calling for backup based on lies. She held her phone steadier and made sure she was recording everything clearly. I am not under the influence of anything, she said loudly. I haven't had a drink in 3 days and I've never used illegal drugs in my life. Martinez leaned closer to her window. That's what they all say. We'll find out the truth soon enough. How? Rhonda asked. Are you going to give me a sobriety test? If we have to, Johnson said. But first you need to get out of that car. And if I refuse? Then we'll break your window and drag you out, Martinez said with an evil smile. Rhonda felt a chill run down her spine. These officers were serious about hurting her. She started thinking about her options again. She could try to drive away, but they would chase her and probably ram her car. She could get out and cooperate, but then they would probably plant drugs or make up other charges. She decided to try calling 911. Maybe if she reported the situation, it would create a record of what was happening. She carefully dialed the number while still recording with her camera. 911, what's your emergency? The operator answered. This is Rhonda Rousey. I'm at the Shell station on Ocean View Boulevard, and 2 police officers are threatening me for no reason. I think they're going to hurt me. Johnson saw her talking on the phone and became furious.
Hang up that phone,
he yelled. Ma'am, did you say police officers are threatening you? The 911 operator asked. Yes, Rhonda said quickly. Officers Martinez and Johnson. They followed me here and now they're trying to search my car illegally. Martinez reached through the window and tried to grab her phone. Rhonda pulled it away from him. Don't touch me, she said. Give me that phone, Martinez yelled.
You can't call 911 on police officers?
I can call anyone I want, Rhonda said. This is America. The 911 operator was still on the line. Ma'am, I'm going to send a supervisor to your location. Can you stay on the line? I'll try, Rhonda said. Johnson walked around to the passenger side of her car and tried the door handle. It was locked. Open this door right now, he demanded. No, Rhonda said firmly. I'm not opening anything until a supervisor gets here. Martinez went back to the patrol car and got something out of the trunk. When he came back, he was carrying a metal tool that looked like it was designed to break car windows. Last chance, he said, holding up the tool. Open the door or I'm breaking the window. Rhonda's heart was pounding, but she tried to stay calm. If you break my window without a warrant, that's destruction of property and violation of my civil rights. We don't need a warrant, Johnson said. We have probable cause. Probable cause for what? Rhonda asked. You still haven't told me what crime you think I committed. Martinez raised the tool above his head. Reckless driving, resisting arrest, and failure to comply with police orders. I wasn't driving recklessly. You haven't arrested me for anything and I don't have to comply with illegal orders, Rhonda said. The 911 operator was still listening to everything. Ma'am, help is on the way. Try to stay calm. They're about to break my window, Rhonda told the operator. Martinez brought the tool down hard on the passenger side window. The glass shattered into thousands of pieces, covering the passenger seat and floor of Rhonda's car. There, Martinez said with satisfaction. Now you can open the door. Johnson reached through the broken window and unlocked the passenger door. Then he opened it and leaned inside the car. Get out right now, he yelled at Rhonda. This is illegal, Rhonda yelled back. You had no right to break my window. We had every right, Martinez said. You were being uncooperative. Johnson grabbed Rhonda's arm and tried to pull her out of the car. She resisted, not because she wanted to fight, but because she knew this was wrong. Don't touch me, she said. I want a lawyer. You'll get a lawyer after we arrest you, Johnson said, pulling harder on her arm. Rhonda's fighter instinct started to kick in. She had trained for years to defend herself, and her body was reacting to the threat automatically. But she also knew that if she fought back against police officers, even in self-defense, it would make things much worse for her. Let go of my arm, she said as calmly as she could. You're hurting me. Good, Martinez said. Maybe next time you'll cooperate from the beginning. The 911 operator could hear everything that was happening. Ma'am, are you being physically assaulted? Yes, Rhonda said. They broke my window and now they're trying to pull me out of my car. Help is almost there, the operator said. Just hold on. Johnson managed to get Rhonda's seatbelt unbuckled and pulled her halfway out of the car. She was trying not to resist too much, but she also didn't want to make it easy for them. Stop fighting us, Martinez yelled. I'm not fighting you, Rhonda yelled back. I'm just trying to protect myself. Just then they heard sirens in the distance. Someone was coming, but Rhonda didn't know if it would be help or just more officers who would take Martinez and Johnson's side. Johnson heard the sirens too and started moving faster. Come on, let's get her in cuffs before backup gets here. Martinez pulled out his handcuffs and moved toward Rhonda. Put your hands behind your back. For what charge? Rhonda asked. Resisting arrest, Martinez said. But you never told me I was under arrest, Rhonda pointed out. I'm telling you now, Martinez said. You're under arrest for resisting arrest. Rhonda knew this made no legal sense, but she also knew these officers didn't care about the law. They had their own agenda, and she was just going to have to survive it until help arrived. The sirens were getting closer. In a few more minutes, she would find out if the cavalry was coming to save her or to help destroy her. The sirens were getting louder, but Officers Martinez and Johnson seemed more desperate to get Rhonda in handcuffs before help arrived. This made her realize that maybe they knew what they were doing was wrong. Turn around and put your hands behind your back, Martinez yelled, holding the handcuffs. Rhonda was now standing outside her car, still holding her phone with the 911 operator on the line. Glass from the broken window was all over her clothes and the ground around her feet. I want to wait for your supervisor, Rhonda said. The 911 operator said someone was coming. We don't answer to 911 operators, Johnson said. We answer to our sergeant, and he told us to handle this situation. When did your sergeant tell you that? Rhonda asked. You've been with me the whole time. Johnson realized he had made a mistake. He looked at Martinez with worry in his eyes. They had not talked to any sergeant. They were acting on their own. That's none of your business, Martinez said quickly. Just put your hands behind your back. Rhonda kept her phone up and made sure it was still recording. I'm not resisting arrest, but I want to know what I'm being arrested for. We already told you, Johnson said. Reckless driving and resisting arrest. I wasn't driving recklessly, and you can't arrest someone for resisting arrest if you never arrested them in the first place, Rhonda explained. Martinez was getting frustrated. The sirens were very close now, and he knew they were running out of time. Look, lady, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. What's the easy way? Rhonda asked. You cooperate with us and we'll put in a good word for you with the judge. And what's the hard way? Martinez smiled that mean smile again. You keep giving us trouble and we'll make sure you regret it. Rhonda felt a chill run through her body. These officers were basically threatening her. She was glad the 911 operator was still listening to everything. Are you threatening me? She asked loudly, making sure her phone picked up her words clearly. We're not threatening you, Johnson said quickly. We're just explaining your options. The first police car with sirens pulled into the gas station parking lot. Rhonda felt a wave of relief wash over her. Finally, someone else was here to witness what was happening. But her relief turned to worry when she saw Martinez and Johnson smile at each other. They seemed happy that backup was arriving. Maybe the new officers would take their side automatically. A tall, older police officer got out of the patrol car. His uniform had more stripes on it, which meant he was probably a supervisor. His name tag said Sergeant Williams. What's the situation here? Sergeant Williams asked as he walked over. We stopped this lady for reckless driving, Martinez said quickly. She's been refusing to cooperate and resisting arrest. That's not true, Rhonda said. They followed me here from my gym and broke my car window for no reason. Sergeant Williams looked at the broken glass around Rhonda's car and frowned. Why was the window broken? She locked herself in the car and refused to get out, Johnson explained. We had to break the window for officer safety. Officer safety? Rhonda said. I was just sitting in my car talking to 911. How was that a threat to anyone? Sergeant Williams looked at Rhonda more carefully. Ma'am, what's your name? Rhonda Rousey. The sergeant's eyes widened slightly. He recognized the name. The fighter? Yes, sir. Sergeant Williams looked back at Martinez and Johnson. You stopped Rhonda Rousey for reckless driving? She was weaving between lanes and driving erratically, Martinez said. But he sounded less confident now. I was not, Rhonda said firmly. I was driving home from the gym when they started following me. I came here because I felt unsafe. Unsafe? Sergeant Williams asked.
Why did you feel unsafe?
Because they were following me very closely without turning on their lights or pulling me over officially. When I stopped here, they surrounded my car and demanded I get out without telling me why. The sergeant walked over to look at Rhonda's car more closely. He examined the broken window and the glass on the ground. Then he looked at the patrol car that Martinez and Johnson had been driving. "Where's your dashcam footage?" he asked them. Martinez and Johnson looked at each other nervously. "Our camera wasn't working tonight," Johnson said. "Both cameras weren't working?" Sergeant Williams asked. "That's right," Martinez said. "We reported it earlier." Sergeant Williams pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, this is Sergeant Williams. Can you check the maintenance logs for Unit 47? There was a pause, then the dispatcher came back. "Sergeant Williams, Unit 47 has no reported camera problems. Both cameras should be functioning normally." Martinez's face turned red. He had been caught in a lie. "So your cameras are working," Sergeant Williams said. "Let's take a look at that footage." "Actually," Johnson said quickly, "I think Martinez was confused. Maybe the cameras are working after all." "Let's go check," the sergeant said. The three officers walked over to the patrol car. Rhonda stayed by her vehicle, still recording everything with her phone. She could see them talking, but she could not hear what they were saying. After a few minutes, Sergeant Williams came back over to Rhonda. His face looked serious. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see that recording you're making," he said. Rhonda felt nervous. "Why?" "Because I just watched the dash cam footage from their car and it doesn't match what Officers Martinez and Johnson told me happened." Rhonda felt a surge of hope. "What did the footage show?" "It shows them following you for several blocks, then deliberately hitting your car from behind at low speed when you stopped at a red light." Rhonda's mouth fell open. "They hit my car? I didn't even feel it. It was a light tap, but it was definitely intentional. The footage shows them laughing about it afterward." Martinez and Johnson were standing by their patrol car looking very worried. They seemed to be arguing with each other in whispers. "So what happens now?" Rhonda asked. "Now I need to see your recording to get the full picture of what happened here tonight," Sergeant Williams said. "And then I'm going to have some very serious questions for Officers Martinez and Johnson." Rhonda handed him her phone. "I've been recording since they demanded I get out of my car." Sergeant Williams spent several minutes watching the video. His face got more and more angry as he watched. When he finished, he looked at Rhonda with an expression that was both apologetic and furious. "Ma'am, I am very sorry for what you've been put through tonight. What these officers did was completely inappropriate and illegal." "So I'm not in trouble?" Rhonda asked. "You're not in trouble at all. In fact, you handled yourself very well under very difficult circumstances." Rhonda felt relief flooding through her body. She had been so scared that no one would believe her story. "What's going to happen to them?" she asked, looking over at Martinez and Johnson. "That's going to depend on a lot of things," Sergeant Williams said. "But I can promise you this situation is far from over." Sergeant Williams walked back over to Officers Martinez and Johnson. Rhonda could see him talking to them in a very serious way. Both officers kept shaking their heads and pointing at her, but the sergeant was not buying whatever they were trying to sell him. Another police car pulled into the gas station. This one had different markings on it. Instead of a regular patrol car, it looked more official. A woman in a suit got out and walked over to Sergeant Williams. "That's Detective Sarah Chen from Internal Affairs," Sergeant Williams told Rhonda. "I called her as soon as I saw the dashcam footage." Internal Affairs was the department that investigated bad police officers. Rhonda had heard about them on TV shows, but she never thought she would meet one in real life. Detective Chen introduced herself to Rhonda and asked to see the video recording on her phone. Just like Sergeant Williams, her face got more serious as she watched. "Ms. Rousey, I need to ask you some questions about what happened tonight," Detective Chen said. "Are you willing to give a statement?" "Yes," Rhonda said. "I want people to know the truth about what these officers did." Detective Chen pulled out a small recording device. "I'm going to record our conversation so there's no confusion later about what you said. Is that okay?" "That's fine," Rhonda agreed. "Please start from the beginning and tell me everything that happened tonight." Rhonda told the whole story, starting from when she left the gym. She explained how the officers followed her, how they lied about her driving, how they broke her window, and how they tried to arrest her for no real reason. Detective Chen asked detailed questions about everything. She wanted to know exact times, exact words that were said, and exactly what each officer did. The interview took almost an hour. While Detective Chen was interviewing Rhonda, Sergeant Williams was talking to Martinez and Johnson separately. He interviewed each of them alone so they could not coordinate their stories. Their stories don't match, Sergeant Williams told Detective Chen when the interviews were finished. Martinez says Johnson was driving, but the dash cam clearly shows Martinez behind the wheel. Johnson says they never hit your car, but the footage shows the impact clearly. What about the broken window? Detective Chen asked. They both claim you were being violent and they broke it for officer safety. But your recording shows you sitting calmly in your car the whole time. Detective Chen nodded. I've seen enough. I'm placing both officers on administrative leave, pending a full investigation. She walked over to Martinez and Johnson, who were standing by their patrol car looking very worried. Officers Martinez and Johnson, you are both suspended from duty effective immediately. Please turn in your badges, weapons, and department vehicles. What? Martinez said. You can't suspend us. We didn't do anything wrong. The evidence says otherwise, Detective Chen replied calmly. You have the right to union representation, and there will be a hearing within 72 hours. Johnson looked angry. This is ridiculous. We're getting suspended because some celebrity thinks she's above the law. You're getting suspended because you broke the law, Sergeant Williams said firmly. Multiple laws, actually. What laws? Martinez demanded. Detective Chen started counting on her fingers. Assault, false imprisonment, destruction of property, filing false police reports, and civil rights violations. That's just to start with. Both officers' faces went pale. These were serious charges that could end their careers and send them to prison. We want our union representative, Johnson said quietly. You can call them from the station, Detective Chen said. Right now, I need you to get in the back of Sergeant Williams' car. You're arresting us? Martinez asked. Yes, I am. Sergeant Williams put handcuffs on both officers and led them to his patrol car. It was strange for Rhonda to see police officers being arrested, but she felt like justice was being served. Detective Chen came back over to Rhonda. Ms. Rousey, I want you to know that what happened to you tonight is not normal. Most police officers are good people who would never do what these two did. I believe that, Rhonda said. But it's scary to think about what would have happened if I wasn't famous and if I hadn't recorded everything. You're right to be concerned about that, Detective Chen agreed. That's exactly why we take these cases so seriously. If officers think they can abuse their power, it puts everyone in danger. What happens next? Rhonda asked. We'll do a complete investigation. We'll interview witnesses, examine all the evidence, and build a case. If the evidence supports criminal charges, we'll work with the district attorney's office to prosecute them. How long will that take? Several months, probably. These things move slowly to make sure everything is done correctly. A tow truck arrived to take away the patrol car that Martinez and Johnson had been driving. The driver loaded it onto his truck to be examined by police experts. They'll check the car for evidence, Detective Chen explained. Things like fingerprints, damage patterns, and electronic records from the computer system. Another officer arrived to take photos of Rhonda's broken window and the glass on the ground. Everything had to be documented carefully for the court case. What about my car? Rhonda asked. Can I drive it home with a broken window? I'll have one of our officers follow you home to make sure you get there safely, Sergeant Williams offered. You can get the window fixed tomorrow and send us the bill. The department will pay for the damage. Thank you, Rhonda said. She was grateful that at least some of the police officers were trying to make things right. As they were finishing up, a news van pulled into the gas station parking lot. Someone with a camera got out and started filming. How did they find out so fast? Rhonda wondered. Police radio transmissions are public, Detective Chen explained. News reporters listen to them all the time looking for stories. A reporter with a microphone walked over toward them. Ms. Rousey, can you tell us what happened here tonight? Detective Chen stepped between the reporter and Rhonda. No interviews right now. This is an active investigation. Just a quick statement. The reporter asked. No statements, Detective Chen said firmly. Please move back behind the yellow tape. Other officers had put up crime scene tape around the area where Rhonda's car was parked. The broken glass and the whole scene was being treated like evidence. Ms. Rousey, Detective Chen said quietly, you should know that this story is probably going to be all over the news tomorrow. Are you prepared for that? Rhonda sighed. I guess I have to be. I just hope people understand that I didn't want any of this to happen. The evidence will speak for itself, Detective Chen assured her. You did nothing wrong and the investigation will prove that. Sergeant Williams came back over after putting Martinez and Johnson in his car. I want to apologize again for what you went through tonight. These officers do not represent what our department stands for. I appreciate that, Rhonda said, but I hope this leads to some changes so it doesn't happen to other people. It will, Detective Chen promised. Cases like this help us identify problems and fix them. As Rhonda got ready to drive home, she felt a mix of emotions. She was relieved that the truth had come out and that the bad officers were being punished. But she was also worried about what would happen when the story became public. She had no idea that this one night would change everything, not just for her, but for police departments across the country. Rhonda woke up the next morning to her phone buzzing nonstop. She had dozens of missed calls, text messages, and notifications from social media. The story about her encounter with officers Martinez and Johnson was everywhere. Her husband was already awake, watching the news on their bedroom TV. Honey, you need to see this, he said. On the screen was a reporter standing outside the gas station where everything had happened. Behind her, Rhonda could see the yellow crime scene tape still up around the area where her car had been parked. Good morning. I'm standing outside the Shell station where UFC star Ronda Rousey was allegedly assaulted by 2 police officers last night, the reporter was saying. According to sources close to the investigation, officers Martinez and Johnson have been arrested and charged with multiple crimes. Rhonda sat up in bed and turned the volume up. She wanted to hear what the news was saying about the situation. Phone video obtained by our news team shows the officers breaking Rousey's car window and physically pulling her from her vehicle, the reporter continued. The video also captures the officers making what appear to be false statements about Rousey's driving. Rhonda's stomach dropped. They have my video? She asked her husband. It looks like someone leaked it, he said. The whole thing is online now. Rhonda grabbed her laptop and searched for her name online. There were hundreds of news articles about what happened. Most of them had headlines like police officers assault UFC star and Ronda Rousey attacked by corrupt cops. But what worried her most were the comment sections under the articles. Thousands of people were debating whether she was telling the truth or not. Some people supported her, but others were saying she was making it up for attention. Why would she lie about this? One comment said, she has more money than those cops will ever see. Celebrities think they can get away with anything, another comment replied. She probably was driving drunk and is trying to get out of it. Rhonda felt sick reading the negative comments. She had told the truth about everything that happened, but some people would never believe her just because she was famous. Her phone rang. It was Detective Chen. Ms. Rousey, I wanted to call and let you know that the video of your encounter has been released to the media, Detective Chen said. I saw that, Rhonda replied. How did they get it? We're investigating that. Someone in our department leaked it without authorization. That person will be disciplined. What does this mean for the case against Martinez and Johnson? Actually, it might help, Detective Chen said. Now the whole world can see exactly what happened. It's going to be very hard for them to claim they did nothing wrong. Detective Chen was right. By noon, the video had been viewed millions of times online. People could see for themselves how calm Rhonda had been and how aggressive the officers were. More news came out throughout the day. Reporters had started digging into the backgrounds of officers Martinez and Johnson, and what they found was disturbing. Martinez had been sued twice before for excessive force. In one case, he had beaten a teenager during a traffic stop. In another case, he had arrested a woman for disrespecting him when she asked for his badge number. Johnson had an even worse record. He had been investigated for stealing money from suspects during arrests. He had also been accused of making inappropriate comments to female drivers during traffic stops. These officers should have been fired years ago, a police accountability expert told one news station. The fact that they were still on the street shows serious problems with police oversight. Rhonda's phone rang again. This time, it was her lawyer. Rhonda, you need to be very careful about what you say publicly about this case, her lawyer advised. Anything you say could be used in court later. I just want people to know the truth, Rhonda said. The truth will come out in court. But right now, the best thing you can do is let the investigation proceed without interference. That afternoon, Rhonda got a call from a producer at a major news network. They wanted her to do an exclusive interview about what happened. "We'll pay you $1 million for 1 hour," the producer said. "I'm not interested in making money from this," Rhonda replied. "I just want justice. Then do the interview for free. Tell your side of the story." Rhonda thought about it but decided to follow her lawyer's advice. "I can't do any interviews right now. Maybe after the court case is over." Meanwhile, protests were starting to form outside the police station where Martinez and Johnson had worked. People were carrying signs that said "Justice for Rhonda" and "Police accountability now." But there were also counter-protesters who supported the police. They carried signs that said "Back the Blue" and "Don't believe celebrity lies." The situation was becoming very tense in the community. The police chief held a press conference to try to calm things down. "I want to be clear that the actions of Officers Martinez and Johnson do not represent the values of our police department," the chief said. "We take these allegations very seriously, and we will cooperate fully with the investigation." A reporter raised her hand. "Chief, why were these officers still on the force despite their history of complaints?" The chief looked uncomfortable. "We are reviewing our disciplinary procedures to make sure something like this doesn't happen again." "That's not an answer," the reporter pressed. "These officers had multiple complaints against them. Why weren't they fired?" "I can't comment on specific personnel matters," the chief said. The next day, more bad news came out. Reporters had discovered that Martinez and Johnson were part of a group of officers who called themselves the Brotherhood. This group allegedly targeted celebrities and wealthy people for fake traffic stops, hoping to get bribes or lawsuit settlements. According to a former officer who spoke to reporters anonymously, the Brotherhood had a list of celebrity license plate numbers and regular routes. They would wait for opportunities to pull these people over and create situations that could lead to money. They thought Ronda Rousey would pay them to make the problem go away, the former officer said. They never expected her to fight back and record everything. This revelation made the case much bigger than just two bad cops. Now it looked like there might be a whole conspiracy of corrupt officers targeting famous people. The FBI announced they were opening their own investigation into the Brotherhood and any other officers who might be involved. This appears to be a pattern of criminal activity that goes beyond just two officers, an FBI spokesperson said. "We will investigate everyone who was involved and hold them accountable." Rhonda felt overwhelmed by how big the story had become. She had just been driving home from the gym, and now she was at the center of a major corruption scandal. But she also felt proud that her decision to stand up for herself was helping expose a serious problem. Maybe other people would be safer because she had been brave enough to fight back. The court hearing for Martinez and Johnson was scheduled for the following week. Rhonda would have to testify about what happened that night. She was nervous about facing them again, but she was ready to tell her story in court. She had no idea that the hearing would bring even more shocking revelations about how deep the corruption really went. The courthouse was packed on the day of the hearing. News trucks lined the street outside, and reporters were interviewing anyone who would talk to them. Rhonda arrived with her lawyer and had to push through a crowd of cameras and microphones. "Ms. Rousey, how are you feeling today?" one reporter shouted. "Do you think you'll get justice?" Another one called out. Rhonda's lawyer guided her through the crowd without stopping to answer questions. "Save it for the courtroom," he whispered to her. Inside the courthouse, Rhonda saw Officers Martinez and Johnson for the first time since that night at the gas station. They were sitting at a table with their lawyers wearing regular clothes instead of their police uniforms. They looked much smaller and less threatening than they had that night. When Martinez saw Rhonda walk in, he whispered something to his lawyer and pointed at her. Johnson kept his head down and wouldn't look in her direction. The judge was an older woman named Judge Patricia Morrison. She had a reputation for being tough on police misconduct cases. Rhonda felt hopeful that she would get a fair hearing. This hearing is to determine whether there is enough evidence to proceed with criminal charges against Officers Martinez and Johnson, Judge Morrison announced. The prosecution will present their case first. The prosecutor was a young man named David Kim. He had been specially assigned to this case because of how important it was. He stood up and addressed the judge. "Your Honor, we will show that Officers Martinez and Johnson deliberately targeted Ms. Rousey, committed assault, destroyed her property, and violated her civil rights. We have video evidence, witness testimony, and their own dashcam footage that proves they broke the law. Martinez's lawyer, a woman named Sarah Walsh, stood up next. Your Honor, my clients were simply doing their job. Ms. Rousey was driving erratically, and when they tried to investigate, she became hostile and uncooperative. They used only the force necessary to protect themselves. Johnson's lawyer, an older man named Robert Kane, nodded in agreement. This is clearly a case of a celebrity trying to use her fame to get out of trouble. My client followed proper police procedures throughout the encounter. Judge Morrison looked skeptical. We'll see about that. Let's look at the evidence. The first piece of evidence was the dashcam footage from Martinez and Johnson's patrol car. The prosecutor played it on a large screen where everyone could see it clearly. The video showed the patrol car following Rhonda's SUV for several blocks. Then, when Rhonda stopped at a red light, the patrol car deliberately bumped into her rear bumper. On the audio, you could hear Martinez and Johnson laughing about it. Did you see her jump? Johnson's voice said on the recording. That was perfect, Martinez replied. Now we've got her. The courtroom was silent as everyone watched the video. It was clear that the officers had planned to hit Rhonda's car from the beginning. Judge Morrison looked angry. Counselors, please approach the bench. The lawyers for both sides walked up to speak with the judge privately. Rhonda couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could see that the judge was very upset. When the lawyers returned to their seats, Judge Morrison addressed the courtroom. The court is going to take a brief recess while I review additional evidence that has just been brought to my attention. During the recess, Detective Chen found Rhonda in the hallway. We just got some new information that changes everything, she said. What kind of information? Rhonda asked. The FBI found text messages between Martinez, Johnson, and at least 6 other officers. They were planning to target you specifically. What do you mean specifically? Detective Chen showed Rhonda a printout of the text messages. Look at this. 3 days before your encounter, Martinez sent a message saying, Rousey trains at Venice Fitness on Tuesday nights. Usually leaves around 9:30. Rhonda felt sick reading the messages. They were watching me. It gets worse, Detective Chen said. Johnson replied, perfect. She's worth millions. Easy payday. The messages showed that the officers had been planning to target Rhonda for at least a week. They had studied her schedule and planned the encounter to happen when she would be alone and vulnerable. When the hearing resumed, the prosecutor presented the new text message evidence. The entire courtroom gasped as the messages were read aloud. Martinez's lawyer looked shocked. Your Honor, this is the first time we're seeing this evidence. We need time to review it. You'll have plenty of time to review it in jail, Judge Morrison replied coldly. Based on the evidence presented today, I am ordering that both defendants be held without bail pending trial. Without bail? Johnson's lawyer protested. Your Honor, that's excessive for a misdemeanor charge. These are no longer misdemeanor charges, Judge Morrison said. Based on the conspiracy evidence, I am upgrading the charges to felony assault, conspiracy, and federal civil rights violations. Martinez and Johnson both looked terrified. Felony charges meant they could go to prison for years, not just months. But the biggest shock was still to come. The prosecutor stood up again. Your Honor, based on our ongoing investigation, we have discovered that this conspiracy involves at least 6 other officers. We are requesting arrest warrants for the entire group. Judge Morrison nodded. Granted. Bailiff, please take the defendants into custody. Martinez and Johnson were handcuffed and led away. As they passed Rhonda's table, Martinez glared at her with pure hatred in his eyes. This isn't over, he muttered under his breath. Rhonda's lawyer immediately stood up. Your Honor, my client just received a threat from the defendant. Judge Morrison was furious. Mr. Martinez, you have just added witness intimidation to your charges. I hope you enjoyed your law enforcement career because it's over. After the hearing, Rhonda felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. Justice was being served, but the process was emotionally draining. Detective Chen walked her to her car. Ms. Rousey, I want you to know that we're taking extra security precautions for you and your family. Martinez has friends on the force who might try to retaliate. You think they would hurt my family? Rhonda asked, worried. We're not taking any chances. You'll have police protection until this is all over. As they walked, Detective Chen's phone rang. She answered it and her face went pale. What is it? Rhonda asked. That was the FBI. They just arrested 3 more officers who were part of the Brotherhood, and they found something else. What? Bank records showing that this group has been extorting money from celebrities and wealthy people for over 2 years. You're not their first victim, Ms. Rousey. You're just the first one brave enough to fight back. Rhonda realized that her decision to record everything and refuse to be intimidated had exposed a major criminal conspiracy. Dozens of innocent people had been victimized by these corrupt officers. The story would dominate headlines for weeks to come. More officers would be arrested. The police chief would resign in disgrace, and Rhonda would become an unexpected symbol of courage in the fight against police corruption. But first, she just wanted to go home and hug her family. She had been through enough excitement for one lifetime, or so she thought. The biggest surprise was still waiting for her at the final trial. 3 months later, Rhonda sat in the front row of the federal courthouse for the final trial of officers Martinez and Johnson. The case had grown much bigger than anyone expected. What started as a simple traffic stop had become the largest police corruption trial in the city's history. During those 3 months, the FBI investigation had uncovered shocking details about the Brotherhood. They had been running their criminal operation for over 3 years. They targeted not just celebrities but also business owners, doctors, and anyone who looked like they had money. Their methods were always the same. They would follow someone, create a fake reason to stop them, and then demand money to make the charges go away. If people refused to pay, the officers would plant drugs or make up other serious charges. The FBI found that the Brotherhood had stolen over $2 million from innocent people. Many victims had been too scared to report what happened, because they thought no one would believe them over police officers. Rhonda's case was different because she had recorded everything and refused to be intimidated. Her evidence had broken the case wide open and led to the arrest of 9 corrupt officers. The trial had been going on for 2 weeks. Rhonda had already testified about what happened that night at the gas station. It had been difficult to relive those scary moments, but she knew it was important to tell the truth. Today was the day Martinez and Johnson would be sentenced. They had both been found guilty on all charges. The question now was how much time they would spend in prison. Judge Morrison entered the courtroom and everyone stood up. She looked very serious as she took her seat behind the bench. "We are here today for the sentencing of officers Carlos Martinez and David Johnson," she announced. "Before I announce the sentences, I want to say something about this case." The courtroom was completely silent. Everyone wanted to hear what the judge had to say. "In 30 years on the bench, I have never seen a case that has shaken my faith in law enforcement more than this one," Judge Morrison began. "Police officers take an oath to protect and serve the public. These defendants betrayed that oath in the worst possible way." She looked directly at Martinez and Johnson, who were sitting at their table with their heads down. "You used your badges and uniforms to prey on innocent people. You stole money, destroyed property, and violated the civil rights of dozens of victims. You brought shame to every honest police officer in this city." Judge Morrison picked up a document from her desk. "Mr. Martinez, please stand." Martinez stood up slowly. He looked much older than he had 3 months ago. The stress of the trial had taken a toll on him. "Carlos Martinez, you have been found guilty of conspiracy, assault under color of authority, extortion, and civil rights violations. You were the leader of this criminal organization, and you recruited other officers to join your conspiracy." The judge paused for a moment. "I sentence you to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. You will also pay full restitution to all victims." Martinez's face went white. 8 years was longer than his lawyer had expected. His wife, who was sitting in the gallery, started crying quietly. "Mr. Johnson, please stand," Judge Morrison said. Johnson stood up and swayed slightly, as if he might faint. He gripped the table to steady himself. "David Johnson, you have been found guilty of the same charges as Mr. Martinez. While you were not the leader of this conspiracy, you were an enthusiastic participant who showed no remorse for your actions." Judge Morrison looked at Johnson with disgust. "I sentence you to 6 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. You will also pay full restitution to all victims." Johnson's lawyer had hoped for a lighter sentence, but 6 years was still a long time. Johnson would be in his 40s when he got out of prison. "Both defendants will report to federal prison within 30 days, the judge continued. "Your law enforcement certifications are permanently revoked. You will never be allowed to work in law enforcement again." This was almost as devastating as the prison time. Martinez and Johnson had spent their entire adult lives as police officers. Now they would have to start over with criminal records and no job skills. Judge Morrison was not finished. I also want to address the broader implications of this case. The corruption we have seen here did not happen in a vacuum. It was allowed to flourish because of failures in supervision and accountability. She looked toward the back of the courtroom, where several police administrators were sitting. This department must undergo significant reforms to prevent future corruption. The public's trust has been severely damaged, and it will take years to rebuild it. The judge then turned to Rhonda. Ms. Rousey, would you like to make a victim impact statement? Rhonda had prepared something to say, but now that the moment was here, she felt nervous. She stood up and walked to the podium in front of the judge. Your Honor, what happened to me that night was terrifying, Rhonda began, but I was lucky. I had the resources to fight back and the platform to make people listen to my story. She looked over at Martinez and Johnson, who still would not make eye contact with her. I keep thinking about all the other victims who didn't have those advantages, people who were too scared to report what happened to them, or who did report it but weren't believed. Rhonda's voice got stronger as she continued. These officers used their positions of power to hurt innocent people. They made communities less safe and made it harder for good police officers to do their jobs. She paused for a moment to collect her thoughts. I hope this case sends a message that no one is above the law. Not police officers, not celebrities, not anyone. We all have to be held accountable for our actions. Rhonda looked directly at Martinez and Johnson for the first time. I forgive you for what you did to me, but I hope you understand how much damage you caused and that you use your time in prison to become better people. When Rhonda finished speaking, the courtroom was completely quiet. Even Martinez and Johnson seemed moved by her words. Judge Morrison thanked Rhonda and dismissed the court. As Martinez and Johnson were led away in handcuffs, neither of them said a word. They looked defeated and ashamed. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded Rhonda and her lawyer. She had refused to do interviews during the trial, but now she felt ready to speak publicly. Ms. Rousey, how do you feel about the sentences? A reporter asked. I feel like justice was served, Rhonda replied. But the real victory is that this corruption was exposed and stopped. Hopefully other victims will feel safe coming forward now. What would you say to other people who might be afraid to report police misconduct? Another reporter asked. I would say that you have rights and those rights matter. Record everything if you can. Call 911 if you feel unsafe. And don't let anyone intimidate you into staying quiet. A reporter from a national news network asked, Do you think this case will lead to broader police reforms? I hope so, Rhonda said. Good police officers want to get rid of the bad ones just as much as the public does. This case should make it easier to identify and remove corrupt officers before they can hurt people. Detective Chen, who had worked on the case from the beginning, joined the press conference. I want to thank Ms. Rousey for her courage in coming forward and cooperating with our investigation. Without her evidence, these officers would still be on the street victimizing innocent people. The case did lead to major reforms in the police department. Body cameras became mandatory for all officers. Civilian oversight was strengthened, and new procedures were put in place to investigate complaints against officers more thoroughly. The Brotherhood conspiracy became a case study in police academies across the country. It showed how corruption could spread when there was no accountability, and how one person's courage could expose widespread wrongdoing. For Rhonda, the experience changed her life in unexpected ways. She became an advocate for police accountability and victims' rights. She used her platform to speak out about corruption and to support other people who had been victimized by bad officers. But most importantly, she proved that standing up for what's right, even when it's scary and difficult, can make a real difference. Her decision to record that encounter at the gas station had not only protected her, but had protected countless other potential victims. As she walked away from the courthouse that day, Rhonda felt proud of what she had accomplished. Justice had been served, and the community was safer because of it. Sometimes that's all any of us can hope for.